Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are, depending on your time zone. Welcome to The Leader on Hope Media, courtesy of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. Today we have the topic, the Kibaki legacy. Only that we look at it from the prism or the lenses of faith through the church. What do we see? What were the hits? What are the misses? What are the lessons learned, if at all? And to help us this morning, we're very delighted and humbled to have on my immediate left, Reverend Father Joseph Mutie, who's the chairman of the Inter-Religious Council of Kenya, IRCK, and also the General Secretary of Organization of African Instituted Churches, OIC. Karibu sana.
Asante. Thank you.
And to our further left, we have Bishop Stephen Gashengo, who is the General Overseer of Harvesters Christian Churches. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen,
Yes.
the nation is mourning. We've lost our third president. May his soul rest in peace.
Amen.
From the lens of the church, if I may start with you, Reverend Father Joseph, what do you see as a legacy? One or two, briefly.
Thank you and good morning, viewers. Allow me to begin by sending a message of condolence to the family, friends, and the nation for the loss of our beloved president, a man whom we respected so very much, a man who has served us, a man who has been a mentor, a man whom many have really associated with this legacy. And also wish here to say that at this moment, as we mourn, let's trust God and keep focused. Kibaki was a man of peace, and therefore let us embrace peace. Now, as we come to the values that the former president or the late president had, there are many things that we can learn as leaders from him. In as much as we saw him as a person who was so much silent, a person who never talked too much, one who actually was there and led as if he is not there. We appreciate so very much the kind of character that was endowed by God. He himself led by example. As an elder, he really brought every other person close to him. As an elder, he is a man whom we can remember for making sure that there are no gaps when unity issues arose. And, he made sure that the country is in harmony, despite the challenges that came along the leadership responsibility. So I would say that besides other virtues, Kibaki was not very vocal. He never said much, but he was hands-on. He knew what he wanted to do. He knew where he wanted to take this country. And therefore, he committed himself to the cause. And we really learned a lot from him when it comes to leadership. And Bishop, you'll agree with me that even as religious leaders, we also learn. This is a man who has taught every other person, from the elderly to the young. Even at some point, he would ask, he would crack a joke, and you would imagine how many people were corrected by that joke. Just a simple joke, and he speaks in Swahili, and everybody laughs. But tomorrow, when everybody is meeting and they are making fun, they'll just use those words and they correct each other, but humbly and respectively. So he's a man whom the world will miss, our country will miss, our communities will miss, and even his family will also miss. May he rest in eternal peace.
Bishop,
Yes.
what about you? What do you see from where you sit?
Well, I want to join my brother here to send my condolences to Kibaki's family and many of the people of Odhaya and also our nation. We are mourning a hero, a man that looked simple but very serious. During Kibaki's era, one of the main things I would say is that corruption was a bit low. And I remember even walking to government offices. The atmosphere during his era was very different. And when that old man gives a responsibility, he trusted people. And those days, I remember one time, I interacted a day with him. We had a meeting, very close, and he was a man of few words. But this man told us that when he assigns an assignment to somebody, even his ministers, there was not this tendency of Ikulu, State House every time. He says, I've given you a job, concentrate with your job. And during his time, the country was cool. He was a cool man. He was a good leader of integrity. And he was a very good administrator. And I would say that even us in the church, we would learn with the stableness and the integrity of that man. He was a visionary. You know, he's the one who started the 2030, which even the current administration is following. So he was a man with a vision. You remember even he took government. This country was very low economically, very bad. And he put some structures. You know, there were guidelines. Today, the Boda people are very happy with Kibaki. He's the one who started that Boda thing. And those simple people are very happy. There are so many legacies that we can remember this old man. And so, you know, normally, my friend, Kenyans does not speak much about a sitting leader. But when he is gone is when you find the memories are coming alive. And today we can go back and see how when Kibaki took power, this is when you saw many houses mushrooming, many projects, many flats everywhere. Nairobi changed. Look at the superhighway. This is Kibaki fruits. So we have a lot to speak about Kibaki. I would say he was a good leader, and may his soul rest in peace.
It's very interesting, just from the two of you, I've just, there are a couple of points I've picked which are complementing each other. One, being an effective leader, one who also delegates without losing the authority. And once a task is delegated, then what is expected, you execute. Being visionary also is something that you get the nation and those around you to buy into that vision, and we collectively move forward. Because you may have leaders today, you are a leader, but we don't know where you're taking us, but you may not know even where you are going yourself.
Very true. Mr. Edmond, you see, when it came to patriotism, you know, the spirit of nationhood, Kibaki made sure that we own this country. And he coined the statement, is it? Kujitegemea, jitegemee.
Tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee.
Tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee. Pay your tax so that you can be independent. In the initial way of thinking, you know, I believe we were like, you know, we have the donor world who is going to offer us support, you know, supporting this other project and this other, you know, every place borrowing. But this time he changed the mindset of Kenyans. Says, no, we can do it. We have the ability, we have the capacity. Let us pay our taxes. And that is how he revived the economy of this country. He never went, you know, every other place to just go and beg. But he said, you know, as Kenyans, let us do what we can. Let us own this country. Let us pay our taxes. Let us do our projects. Let's own this country. And that's something that we can learn as a church. You know, sometimes we are not faithful in the way we do our tithing, in the way we do our offering, in the way, you know, people do not own their church.
You know what,
Sometimes-
Reverend, as you continue there, you know, as you continue there,
Yeah.
is one of the main issue that Kibaki gave us to learn with is the integrity in finances. Sometimes we can blame our people not giving their finances. But I've come to realize when people see the product of what they give,
Oh, yes. They get encouraged.
they get encouraged.
Yes.
You see, like now, when Kibaki started correcting the taxes, we started seeing the opening of the economy. We started seeing things happening. During that time, if you remember, policemen were borrowing petrol from us. You go to a police station and you have a problem, you need their help. They are asking you, we want to help you, but our vehicles has no fuel. But when Kibaki took over, all police stations in Kenya had new vehicles. There was an openness. There was a change of attitudes, and so people saw what their money was doing. So as you say, even in the church,
Yeah.
if we men of God and we become stewards, become faithful, men of integrity, understand how to be faithful, the church will give. The church will give. I'm sure if we change, then if you see how Kenya was the decades, potholes, roads, everything was in a mess. But when these men took over, as he said, there was not much borrowing. But what was corrected within the country was well utilized. And we saw the fruits. So we can make it if we can have the integrity of the economy of this country.
That's right, because people reflect and we become, you know, emotional and we appreciate. And, you know, they say, you know, when you look at when you're in a vehicle, the rear view mirror is what shows what is behind, but the windscreen is larger than the rear view mirror. The point is, where you're going, you're seeing more, but you can reflect where you've come from. However, people don't live in the past. We live in the present going into the future. Key lesson there, like you've said, is fitting within your means. Borrowing is not bad, but again, we can be borrowing as a default to the extent that even what you collect, you don't apply it, you can't see it, you're under pressure, then you are encouraging tax evasion, you're encouraging tax, there's evading and there's the other one of avoidance. You're encouraging people not to also withhold. So find out that the nation then is fractured, yet we're not moving forward together as a lot. Lessons to be learned there. And just appreciating the call that even we, the church, who are looking at that lens, we're also looking at ourselves.
Yeah, very, very important.
You see also in, when we come to the terms of the Bible, you make what you are. If you are an honest person, this is the seed you give to the people. And there is the word we use, impartation. You cannot impart what you don't have, but you impart who you are and what you have. And if you look the legacy of Kibaki, you can see because of being a man of integrity in that economical line, many institutions changed in the way of working. And many officers became responsible. And I realized that even in the church, if we can be examples, and that's why Jesus said, go and make disciples. You can only make disciples of what you are.
That's right, yeah.
So if we are good men of God, honest men of God, preaching what we live, because one of the challenges we're having today is that we are just good preachers of the Bible, but not livers of the Bible. The Bible says that be doers of the word. And I believe if we are going to see even our church changes and our ministry changes and change Kenya and Africa and the world, we must be doers of the word. Jesus was a good example. He did what he was commissioned by his Father. And the same case to us. We can change Kenya. We can change the environment. We can change our people by living according to the Bible, living according to our lives, and things are going to change. Everything depends with the leader, whether in church or in the nation. You have a good leader, you have good reports. It's just like what the number 2 president, Moi, said. Maisha mbaya, siasa mbaya.
Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya.
Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So on the church part of it, I would say that it is time that God raise men of integrity. Whether in the Bible, whether in whatever we do, let us be men of integrity, men that people can emulate, men who are examples.
Very true. And, you know, you're bringing a very nice anchor of the spirituality of, you know, the leadership. I remember very well how the late Kibaki, you know, never, you know, for 50 years, his career was politics. And when it came to his spiritual commitment, you know, his commitment to his spiritual life, he was always there. He used to attend the Catholic Church, Consolata Shrine, I think.
Yes.
And he was always there, on time. He never raised any voice. You can imagine, unlike today, where politicians, when they attend church, want to be recognized.
Be recognized.
He never wanted that, you know. He came to church, he went to church, he never even took the mic to talk into, even during campaigns. He wants the votes, but he never used the pulpit to campaign. He never used the pulpit to say, you know, anything that would earn him anything from the congregation. It was so simple. He could just go there, kneel down, take the Holy Communion, and go back. He had that spiritual, you know, kind of engagement. He loved his Maker. He knew his Maker, and he knew the boundaries, what to say where. But when it comes to the church life, the spiritual life, he was a committed person to his Maker. I think sometimes we need to have that. How do we, you know, have some demarcations? Where does politics get up to, and where does our spiritual life begin, even as we engage in our other normal life? There's need for us to think about our spirituality. And I believe through that, he was able to get re-energized every Sunday, re-energized, to move on and get to understand and to hear, what does God want, you know, for the nation? What is God saying for this country? And on the other hand, you know, the Bible teaches us, cast your burdens, you know, to the Lord. So whatever baggage, whatever issues that he had, when he knelt down there, he used to present them to the Lord. I don't know, sometimes when our politicians don't go to the church, where they present their...
I think it's more about presenting ours to them. They think they're the ones who...
Or are we the ones presenting our burdens to the politicians?
You know, Reverend, one of the things that we need to be very clear is just what I said in the beginning. A leader is an example. And we church leaders, we must be examples even to the politicians. Because a politician is not a preacher of the gospel. He's a politician. And when he come to church, he need to see a spiritual guidance of men who walk with God. You know, a priest is an authority of God. Is a representative of that kingdom. And because of our, I don't know how to put it, slackness or something, or compromise, we have compromised our pulpits. And also now, the fear of God has diminished. And this is why politicians now are so free. When they come to our pulpit, they don't know the line as he has put it. But Kibaki knew his line. This man goes to he loved his church. He honored, he feared the pulpit. Kibaki could never take a microphone and speak pulpit. I mean politics in church. He didn't even like talking in church. And he didn't even like recognition. He came to church, he came as a normal believer. Even during when he was a president. He could come silently.
Humility.
I remember one time he went to a church and people, the pastor just realized Kibaki has come. He was not a man of showing up. For an example, 10 years after handing over power, you never had Kibaki getting involved in the politics of Kenya.
No.
When he had that power, that was it. You could only maybe see him in a funeral somewhere. And his words were very limited. And during his time, he was a peaceful man, and he had that power peacefully. You see, he was a good leader. So I would say that Kibaki was an example. We have lost a statesman, but I pray that God will have mercy with this country. As now we are in electioning time.
Now, let's speak truth to power.
Yes.
Those were the hits. What about the misses? That things could have been a little better, a little different. What do we see? Not necessarily because of the man, but you see, the buck stops with you when you're in leadership. It's not necessarily you who has caused things to happen the way they do. What are the misses that we see during his administration?
Maybe just to say, but 2007, 2008 was a major hit on his leadership. The political struggle then, the elections and the post-election violence was really a trying moment for the country and for his leadership. And even how he overcame that by accepting to shake hands with the opposition, accepting to, to welcome everybody on board. It's something that Kenyans learned, we learned the hard way. When we fight, when we don't agree, when we disagree, we don't have to fight. There are ways we can solve issues amicably. But to him, it must have been a very difficult moment, and for the nation also. And I believe it's a place for us to learn. Sometimes things don't go the way we want, and we should not resort into violence or forcing people to take our way of thinking as the only option. We are here together. We are here as a community, as a family, and as a country, we need each other. So therefore, we learned the hard way. It is something that we have to live with, and we pray that it will never reoccur in this country. This I feel was one of the very difficult times that as a president he had to go through. Having, people shed blood and the country getting to an atmosphere of almost getting out of control and having less to talk during then. But I also like his way of thinking. As a president, you have the powers. You have the sword. And they say when they draw the sword, the leader draws the sword, it does not go back
The way it came out.
the way it came out. So he never went to the extent of saying, since I'm the president, I have the powers, I am the commander-in-chief of the forces. So he would have used the forces to just crush each and every other person. But he said, no, let us have a moment to dialogue. Let us see how we come together. Let us solve, this problem. And I liked him for the way he solved the problems. He used to, in a way, when there are issues, he had this allow me to say, a mystery. They call it magic of getting to solve a problem. Even when somebody cries in the village, oh, serikali, saidia, niko saidi mbaya. And when he comes out, he responds to this person, but on the ground, he makes sure that this problem is solved. So that I would say was something that he went through. It was not easy as an head of state.
Every leadership is tested. And
Must be tested.
Yes, and there is no person who is 100%. And as he says, that 2007, 2008 was a very tough time for all of us. And the way we came out was God's grace. And Kibaki, I would say, he was a good leader, but not very authoritative. The way he solved problems was very different. You see, some of the leaders are very authoritative and on the podium, but the way he solved things was quietly. And sometimes maybe he could release things to have their way. And during that time, one of the elements that we must all reject is tribalism. Tribalism is the one that brought the problem in 2007, 2008. And I'll pray to God today that the seed of tribalism die in Kenya. It is my prayer that we all become Kenyans. Whether I'm a Luo or a Kikuyu or a Kalenjin or a Kamba, it is time that we all become Kenyans. And this is one of the things we have to reject as Kenyans, because we don't want to go back to the 2007, 2008 problems. And that is why I pray that during our time now that we are entering in the elections, let Kenyans, all of us, reject tribalism. And let us never be divided into tribal lines. Let all of us know that whoever is elected according to God's will, he is a Kenyan and he is there to lead us. And even in the church, pastors and church leaders, we must make sure that our churches are not divided in tribal lines. We must be Christians, we must live together, we must live in unity. We must be Kenyans from the church to the nation. So I would say there were hinges here and there, but Kibaki did a good job.
Another legacy, you recall the 2010 Constitution was actually birthed during his administration when it got promulgated in 2010. And at that time, even today, it is still acclaimed as one of the best constitutions in the world. But fidelity to the Constitution, you can have a document, but living it is another challenge altogether. However, again, you recall, Kenyans in a certain poll were said to be amongst the most optimistic in the world in terms of that collective spirit and will to move forward. We can still get back to that point as we move forward. And I like how you brought forward. We're in an electioneering season and phase, so the risk of fracturing the nation is very high. Let's not fall prey to that.
Very true, Modibo. Sometimes we never learn from history. And we allow history to repeat itself. And it is it is always said that history sometimes comes back. You see, as Kenyans, let us awaken. Let history not repeat itself. Kibaki did his part. Those that were then with him tried their best to unite us, and even bringing other envoys, other personalities to come and mediate. As we go forward to the general elections, my prayer is that we emulate the people-centric leadership that Kibaki really upheld. We are not going to be elected to be masters. We are elected to be servants.
Yes.
And if every politician looks at leadership from that angle, that I'm seeking to get to the position of leadership because I want to serve my people, my country.
Servant leadership.
Kenyans, then that will change the way of thinking. It is shocking how some of the senior personalities in this country had to resign so that they go to vie for this, political position. Sometimes we ask ourselves, what is it in leadership, in political leadership, that people want? In the recent past, we've seen, and it is really alarming, that whenever somebody becomes a politician, their lifestyle changes. They become, allow me to say, very rich. And, they are not going to those positions because they want to lead. They want to get what, they're like led by the self. It's no longer people. It is no longer the people. It is like I, myself, I and myself. So I think we learn from Kibaki that even when he gets into position, his way of thinking is, where are my people? What is it that, I think is better for these people? How do I work with the people? And he liked very much consulting with the people. Whenever he wants to do something, he would wish to listen and get to hear, is this thing going to help? How is it going to change the lives of the many? With the current situation where, even as you see, our youthful nation, we have unemployment as a crisis. I would call it a crisis. Our youth are unemployed. We need a leader who will be with the people and tell them, what do we do? How do we become innovative? How do we grow from this problem? Not somebody who join in the lamentation and pointing fingers at the structures, at people, and causing people to become very emotive. But somebody will come down and say, hey guys, I think this is a problem, and we need to think together and come out of this as a family, as a nation. Not just to point the problem and continue crying and lamenting. This is one, the youth unemployment. There are so many others. Kibaki was a problem solver. You never went to Kibaki with a problem and went home the way you came. He would suggest ways. He would not directly give you the way. He was like a counselor. A counselor does not tell you, you must do this.
He empowers
you. But he empowers you to think. He empowers you to try to imagine things. And that is how he revived this country. Everybody owned, whatever they were doing. You were responsible. If he gave you power, if he gave you position of leadership, you are responsible to the least in that structure where you are given responsibility. And that's why we became accountable and a responsible nation. I pray that that spirit, continues to grow in us, that we want to become accountable. We are fighting corruption. Corruption has become a menace in this country. Why? Because we don't want to be responsible, we don't want to be accountable. We want just to be there, just to do things and allow things to happen. No, let us look at what is ailing us. Let us have a solution to our problem. And as Bishop Stephen said, you remember during Kibaki's tenure, even the citizenry used to name the corrupt individuals.
Yes.
Yes.
They used to run after the police. They used to run after the MPs. They used to run. And you see, he empowered the citizens, to the extent that they could impeach somebody. It was unheard of before. You could not imagine, telling your leader that we have had enough of you. Now, people got to know their rights. People got to know that, he gave them the power. The power was not in him only, but he told people, these are your leaders. Ask what you want from them. If they don't respond to your issues, then they no longer qualify.
You see, Kibaki himself, he never believed in handouts.
Yeah.
And you see now, the main problem that we are having today is those handouts. And that's why you elect people of that nature. This is what they teach the people. These young people are looking for employment, as you say. They don't need handouts. It's like, if you want to sustain me, don't give me handouts. Show me how to do the work. They always say that give the person a rod to show the person how to fish, instead of giving him fish. So Kibaki never gave handouts. In fact, people are making fun the other day that you go to Kibaki, you will never get anything, but you get advice.
Yes.
You get guidance,
Yes.
as he says. And that is what we need. That is how things developed in Kenya during his tenure, because he showed people how to fish. And these are the type of leaders we are looking today. People who will show us how to fish. People who give their lives, not handouts. These handouts end up in problems.
In fact, that's very interesting you said that, because we are barely 2-3 months into the elections. So the lens in which the populace should be looking at those who are seeking elective positions, are they effective? Are they empowering you, the citizen? Or are they enslaving you into that culture of handouts, receiving?
Do you know,
There's no free lunch.
do you know, my brother?
Yes.
This is why when people are elected, they have to make their own ways to get back their money.
To recover the profit in case they
Exactly.
don't go back next time.
and so this menace of corruption will never die.
It's a cycle that is vicious.
And that is why, because they have given so much handouts, bribing people for election, immediately they get to power, they change their phones, and you never see them again. Now they start looking for ways to recover what they spent. So we need a change of governance, we need a change of attitude, and that is why we need Kibakis who are not going to give handouts. They are going to show us. That's, you see, as I said earlier, Boda Boda, people are so happy. And he made it possible for them to get small loans to have motorbikes. And you see, it has employed a very huge number of our young people. So if we can have men who are leaders, leaders in their nature, in their lifestyle, this country is going to change. And the same thing, as I said, even in the church, when we have those men and women of integrity, who are leaders by their lives and by their deeds and their examples, we're going to change the whole Christian environment. Things are going to change. And we are going to see wonderful outcome in this country. So we need leaders like Kibaki.
He's going to be buried
On Saturday.
on Saturday, 2 days away. What would be your message to the faith leaders who would be overseeing the last rites in terms of allowing, because it will be a pulpit in terms of the position they're at, to discourage the politicking, because the nation will be focused on the process, the event. The politicians, I'm told, typical. They would, cannot resist the urge of engaging with the crowd when it is there, so that it is not politicized for any gain, but introspection as a nation to move forward. What would be your call? Because it'll be the church presiding.
I admire that thought line where we try to avoid politics in every other event. But, Kibaki was a politician. So, and, he will be buried besides the church. The politicians will be there. And on the other hand, it is politicking time.
It is the season.
So I don't know how to advise, but we would wish to see that that respect is given as we send off our former head of state, and the values or the virtues that he adored should be respected. I think the best we could say is that let politicians, and if they can do that, commit to leading this nation to prosperity. Let them commit to peace. Let them commit to the community, the people, not to themselves, to them, let them not be egocentric. Let them focus on the people, servant leadership. I think that would be the call. Kibaki served, he had that spirit of selflessness. He never thought of himself. He thought of the other as the better. He never felt that is. You look at the way, at his health, even when he was being sworn in the first time. He never bothered about his health. He just wants to be there because he feels there's something he wants to deliver. He had an agenda. He had what it takes. He thought and he felt it's a calling from God to do something for this nation. So my prayer is that as we send our beloved president, off, my prayer is that how would it be better if the politicians thought of their kind of leadership as a calling, not as a job, not as something that is imposed on them, but as a calling from God to serve the country. And putting us back to love our nation. But again, as Bishop said, getting to love one another so that no one comes around and divides us along political lines or party lines or ethnically. But, let's embrace ourselves as a nation that fears God, a nation that is ready to be blessed. And even as he goes, we pray that he has a safe journey as he meets his Maker and joins the rest of our ancestors. May he find rest in eternity.
You see, during that day of burial, you cannot avoid politics. But, as the Rembrandt says here, if it is constructive politics, because if they can talk and give speech according to the legacy of Kibaki, that will be politics of building, not destroying. So you cannot, during this time, you cannot avoid politics in a barrio like that. But the only thing we know is that even before he died, if you listen to the politics in the country, wherever people are going, they were referring the times of Kibaki.
Yes.
Everywhere, go to those about economy, because our major problem in this country is economy. And we saw Kibaki changing the economy of this country. And you see, this man was a leader. He never built himself, as my brother is saying here. Even he refused his picture to be put on the currency of Kenya. You know, he was not building his name. He was building the nation.
In fact, you know, it's interesting you say that because I struggled to look for the name Kibaki this, Kibaki that, Kibaki Primary, Kibaki University.
He refused.
Never. Even a street.
He didn't want.
Even a street. Even
Unlike
a
the rest.
monument.
No.
Somebody
Finally, in Umoja, in Eastlands, they decided to give Lucy Kibaki the name of the hospital.
Or the hospital, yeah.
But you don't see a lot of Kibaki.
Left,
He
right,
did
and
not-
center.
This man was not building himself. This man was a statesman who wanted to build the nation. And this is the spirit that we are praying to animate our country. So I pray that his burial will bring another atmosphere, another change, another caliber of people. And I believe it is possible. Because what you are is what you give. And because he imparted that talent to many, may God make a way for many Kibakis to rise up.
Interesting. Now, when he left office,
Yes.
that was in 2013, to date, until just recently when he transitioned. That's about
Almost 10 years.
Almost
almost
10
10
years.
years, 9,
Yes.
10 years. The point is that there is a life, there's usefulness, even when you've passed the baton on. So the potential fear of those who are in office, what happens when they get out? All the skeletons and the ills they have done catching up with them. Then you miss the peace and serenity, and you can still serve the nation in another capacity. Serve yourself, serve your family, and still be
Well,
useful.
Somebody, a friend of mine, an elder, once told me there's this sport game called the relay. And in the relay, there's the baton,
pass.
which you pass on. And when he was telling me this, he told me the risk, the most dangerous thing to do in that sport is to drop the baton, or the baton to fall down. I think there's need for us to, every other moment, to think of transition. In a youthful country like Kenya, there's need to have that spirit in us. Let us embrace the transitioning spirit. That not every other moment we have, same leaders having to sit in offices forever and ever. But have, even if we have a few to guide, but let's also embrace having even the youthful, the young, joining into leadership, so that at some point we hand over the baton to them, that they may run this nation. My prayer and plea is that we change the rhetoric. What we are feeding our young people is poison. When politicians abuse and accuse each other openly, we are feeding our young people with poison. And what we, as Bishop said, what we give is what we receive. If we give positive words, positive thoughts to our young people, that is what we're going to get in the future. I remember, and allow me to say this, when I was doing my secondary, we did a book, literature, Betrayal in the City, Chinua Achebe,
Chinua Achebe.
and things fall apart.
Yes.
Now, that prepared us to face the political environment that existed then. We imagined and thought through and the realities of the context and the life that we are going to face when we get out of school. Now, I'm imagining what we are feeding now in our education structure, in our political arena, and in any other sphere, is what we are going to get in the short coming future. Because if we don't feed our country with the spirituality, it's everyday politics, politics, politics. And then it is not good politics, it is bad politics. Then for sure,
You will reap what you sow.
you reap what you sow.
Exactly.
You cannot expect to get good leadership if what you instilled in them is not the fear of God. So we have a challenge as servants of God. These politicians are members of our churches. They need to commit to their calling as Christians and go back and rethink their life, their spiritual life, beside their political life. Because it's not fair to lie to people. It's not fair to abuse people. It's not fair to use resources, to abuse resources. It's only fair to commit to what you can do. Tell them openly, this is what I can do. Besides that, I cannot achieve. And we need leaders of integrity. People we can count on. People, in the traditional Africa, we knew there were people whom you can send to the shop and they'll bring what you send them. But there are others you could send, and if it is milk, it will come when it is half. And that culture of getting to understand leadership. But again, what we are instilling in our young people, if I'm sending a young boy or a young girl to the shop, and then they ask me, so what am I going to get? It's a bad spirit. Allow me
Maybe
Yes.
as I support him, I would want to look the life of Apostle Paul. Paul was very concerned of the future. And being an apostle, one of the things we realize, you study the book of Acts and all his epistles, you will see he took time to make Timothy's. Timothy's. And he really spoke, discipled them, walked with them, was with them. And that baton he's saying, he was very careful whom to give. And I remember there's a scripture in the book of Corinthians where he says, Timothy, my son, watch and be of good courage. And then he says, the gospel that you have received from me, make sure you teach others also, men of integrity. He was very careful and specific, men who take the baton. So I would say this, as leaders, whether politicians, whether in the church, we must prepare men who will emulate us, who will take the baton to the next level. Now, there are people who have worked with Kibaki, there are people who have been in government. For us to save this country is just to emulate the good part of this man. The fact remains, he revived this economy. 2030 is his baby. And if we can see men taking that path, there is hope for Kenya.
Indeed. And that is the place we end the leader today. There is hope for Kenya.
Yes.
Today, we're looking at the legacy of our departed former president, Mwai Kibaki. May his soul rest in peace, through the faith lens. Thank you very much, Reverend Father Joseph Mutia. It's been wonderful having you on board.
Pleasure.
And also Bishop Stephen, General Overseer, Harvest Christian Churches. Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
That has been the leader. Till next week, same time, we thank you for the privilege of your company. Lessons learned from our departed president. Stay well, stay safe, be blessed.
Redeemed and so happy in Jesus, no language.
Liven up your day with this Southern Gospel favorite.
Now let us have a little talk with Jesus. Let us tell him all about our
The Bill Gaither Show, featuring veteran gospel artists. The Gaither Vocal Band.
And I know, yes, I know.
Homecoming series, interviews, and much more.
Yesterday's gone and tomorrow may never come, but we have this moment today.
A Bill Gaither Show, only on Hope TV.